If you'd like to follow the process of turning a block of wood like this into a guitar like this, then you've come to the right place. And if you would like to see me give this guitar away, click subscribe, hit the bell. I built a guitar that was similar to this, but it was my own design. And so it's a semi-hollow. I'd call it an F-hole, but it's not an F-hole. I'll put a picture up so you can take a look at it and see it. I have spoken with Dave Roussan, asked him if it would be okay for me to pursue making that guitar, and he said that I have his blessing. I am realizing that this is going to take a lot longer than I expected it to, but that's okay. But it takes a lot of clamping to get just a couple pieces on. All of these clamps to hold these pieces, just 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, where they need to be. Now I've got to put on these side clamps here. Man, that's heavy with all those clamps on there. In order to get a really good tight fit, so I'm adding these 2 pieces of wood in now. So in order to get a good tight fit, this bar is pressing down on the front part to push it against the main part of the body. I've got a clamp here pushing down, make sure that it's tight on this seam. And now I'm going to add this one in, put these together. And then as I clamp down, of course, I've got glue that squirts out, which is all right. That means I'm getting it good and tight. And so I will just kind of work in and clean up. And afterwards, if I've got some leftover glue residue inside there, I can use a razor blade and a screwdriver to kind of scrape along that edge, because the next piece of wood's got to fit tight up against this piece of wood. So we've got to get what glue out of here that we can. I wanted you to take a look at these Union Jack guitar bodies that I'm working on. Can you believe that this one, a couple days ago, looked like this? This looks pretty nasty, doesn't it? But you know, I've been working on assembling out of the same piece of wood. So this and this and this and this all came out of one straight piece of wood, and had just to keep the continuity of design in it. It looks really junky at the moment. But today we're going to start to make this look a little bit more like this one here. And you can see too here that this piece of wood, that piece of wood, there's a continuity in the grain and how they work together. It's a bird's eye maple. This is mahogany, and then this is just a maple there as well. We're going to give one of these guitars away real soon. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about how that's going to take place. A while back, I just came to the realization that I needed to be more intentional about fighting for joy. And in the process, if I can do something that I am passionate about, and I can make somebody else have reason to smile and have a little bit of joy, then that's fantastic. And that's why I thought, you know, maybe vlogging this would be great, because then those who watch could find the enjoyment of seeing somebody get something and maybe be inspired to do it also. And I know it's going to be a battle, because there's always people out there that just want to tear others down. I don't get it. I don't know why. But we need to be encouragers in this life instead of tearing people down. And for some reason, there are some people who just feel like they can somehow boost themselves if they can make themselves feel better than others. So I'm really sorry that that takes place. I've got some YouTube vloggers that I watch that I just know they've dealt with this. There's just people that feel like they got to tear others apart. Well, let's do something about that intentionally to try and just, hey, you know what? We got to battle, and we need to battle for some joy. I want to just go ahead and trudge forward and build custom guitars and give some of these guitars away to people who would really appreciate it. I know there's better guitar builders out there. There's definitely guys that are out there and gals that can play guitar way better than I can. And this is also where you can come in and be a part of this if you feel like it's something you want to do. If you know somebody who could really benefit from getting a boost, like getting a custom, a good quality, nice guitar, then I'd like you to nominate them either through my Patreon page, which is going to be one of the best ways to communicate with me, and you can support this project if you'd like, or send me an email or leave a comment. And yeah, just tell me a little bit of their story and why you would like to nominate them. Today, I want to keep working on these Union Jack guitars. I want this one to look more like this one by the time we're done with this video. And I also want to check back in time a little bit on that white Prince style guitar that I've been working on. So what I'm doing is I'm cleaning these anchors out. These anchors are for the Schaller bridge. And when I have this painted, we stuff some tape inside there to make sure that paint doesn't get down in there, but these edges always get a little bit on there, and you need to clean up so that the threads of those bolts are gonna take right in there. So, and oh, look at that! Isn't that nice? That's awesome. So this is the Schaller 457 bridge. These things are impossible to find, virtually impossible to find. They were made in the 80s. I think maybe some in the 90s as well, but they don't make them anymore. And Schaller hasn't reproduced them or anything, so you have to find, very rarely can you ever find a new one anymore. Early on I found some new ones, but otherwise, now I do the same thing that Dave Roussan has done, and that is to buy used ones. Oftentimes the used ones, when you can find them, first off, they're really expensive. They're like $300 and some a piece used, and then they're pitted up. And then I send them down to Nashville, Tennessee to be replated. So there's a company down in Nashville that replates instrument parts. And they do a fantastic job. So I've had more than one of these done down there, but that's going to look so beautiful once we get that in place. So, oh, I'm starting to get excited, guys. This is fun. You get to this point and it just gets exciting to see things start coming together. Okay, here is the Schaller bridge all put together, put back on, getting it ready to go. So just so you're aware, I mean, this took me probably about 45 minutes to reassemble, putting all those little pieces into the bridge and putting the screws through them and having to use the tap in there to cut through on the thread. So I just say that so you don't get discouraged when it takes you time. Okay, so this one still looks like junk, but it is closer to this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go out and I will use this as the template to route out the bottom part, because this is pretty close. And actually I did change the horn here, so I will use this. Actually, I've got another template that I use to cut this out that I'll use on top of this to cut that the way I want it. But first we'll go ahead and we're going to route out the general shape of it, and then I'll sand this flat. So that was the initial pass. Looks pretty decent. Now I'm going to pull out the bigger router, and I've got a longer bit on this one. First thing I'm going to do is get the bit set to the shallowest that I can have it. Right now I don't have to worry about that. It's over the table because I'm not going near deep enough to get that out. I won't have to move it to the edge until I get into this really rough stuff down below here. The other thing is, because there's such a variety of woods, I've got maple and got mahogany, and maple is harder than what the mahogany is. So I just want to make sure that my bit is a good sharp bit. especially as it comes through these different woods, so that it will cut them nice and even and not chip out when it hits the harder wood. Okay, now that I have finished going around the edge with this bit with the bearing at the shaft, I'm going to change over to this bit where the bearing is at the top. I'll flip the body over, and then this will go down and ride along this edge, and I'll take off that final little lip. So it just so happens that my amazing wife and my in-laws got me a new spindle sander for Christmas. So I am going to put this to use. One of the fancier tools I've got when it comes to this. You can do what I'm going to do without one of these, using a drill and using these kind of sanding barrels to sand. But this will just really make things go quicker for me. So kind of excited to use it. Giving it a try here. Of all my router bits, this one is the most over the top, the biggest, the most powerful, the one that can get away from me easier than the other one. But what it can do is it can contour my edge in a really cool way that I like. So hopefully I don't destroy this whole thing in the process. Okay, now at the moment you can see that there is a pretty sharp ridge here, but that'll sand off really easy when I use 80 or 60 grit sandpaper on there. And so I'm going to come around from here now and come around to this side. And then I've got a different bit that I'm going to use, a little bit smaller one that's going to come into this area and on that one. So keep going. Okay, now I'm going to use the smaller concaved router bit to go ahead, and we're going to make a couple of passes. And then like right now this looks really profound, but I'm going to do a lot of sanding to round this off, and when I'm done with it, then it'll be nicely rounded. Okay, very quickly to show you, and it looks pretty rough right now, but all of this is going to be blended together as I sand, and this is going to be rounded off quite substantially. So while it doesn't look all that pretty right now, keep watching and you'll see what the final result looks like. So I started to sand to get the curvature, which I'm starting to do here, but then all of a sudden it dawned on me, wait a minute, before I make this round, while it's still flat, I need to go ahead and get my neck pocket routed out first. So I have got this set up at a 3-degree angle. So I've got a wedge underneath here that I've measured at 3 degrees. This is my template that I use, and I will go ahead and route this now, and I will be routing this pocket, as you can see, just using this as my template. We've got a 3-degree angle on this. I've got a screw holding right here, which is where one of my pickups, the neck pickup, is going to be. So I can put a screw hole there, it doesn't matter. And then I've got a couple of clamps down here to hold it. With this much of an angle, the depth that I will cut this to then is going to be right at about 5/8 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch. So there we are, right at 11/16 of an inch in my depth. And so we are good to go, just slightly more than 5/8. Well, there we go, guys. Can you believe it? As ugly as that looked, there's still a long ways to go. Got a lot of shaping and sanding still to do here, but there they are. We made this one look like this one. This is the one that we were working on, by the way. So this is the back where I was worried when I had routed and my template moved just a little bit, but I knew I was going to want to round that off anyway, and it worked out just perfect and fine. So yeah, a lot of little shaping and stuff. There's rough edges here. I am now going to simply use a saber saw to just cut apart these print style guitar bodies that are going to be a thin line style. I think I'm going to be calling them the Horizon. And there's a longer story to that, and I'll have to tell you about that someday, but that's for another time. So right now I'm just going to simply cut these apart, and then I'm going to begin to route the bodies out so that we've got the blanks ready to go. And then we can hollow out the two halves and then put them together. Okay guys, I've now rough cut with the saber saw my body blanks, and now I will need to use my template and go ahead and route them out so that it's nice and smooth on the edges and get a good cut that way. Next time we'll work more on these Union Jack guitar bodies, and we will work on those Horizons.